Bobby was a boy, and she called on Bobby, and these were kids that were literally like in their bed, on their bed, doing their work, their classroom work this way. So in any environment, he happened to be sitting at a table, and you could tell in the background this was not your kid who was into sports. He was into heavy metal music and things like that. And she said, "Bobby, why are you in that?" He said, "Because I basically been kicked out of every school I'd ever gone to, and I knew I wasn't going to go to the next one." And his parents had moved a couple times. And she said, "What's your attendance with this?" And he said, "I've not missed a class." And he said, I missed one excuse because we were on vacation or something that occurred. But they're allowed to make up some of those days through sickness. They record these sessions. They make it up, and they don't lose that. To me, it was just fascinating that how many of you ever took like tape recorders to the class and said, "Oh, I'm going to listen to this again later on," and actually never. Well, these kids have it, on YouTube, on a special site, and they just sit to, I know it's about 10 minutes in, and they get talk, whatever segment. And I asked what the hit ratio on that was, and my first question was, how many students actually use that? All of them raised their hand. I asked the teacher, and she said every student at least would use some part of the class, at least every class at some later point, so they're going back and enforcing what they were taught. To me, that was just, it shows the flexibility we can have on our bricks and mortars we need, but not as needed. We can call that down. And why can't a student say, "I'd like to take this class online, and yet I'd like to go participate in a math class." For me, math was difficult. I needed a professor or a teacher in the room. Other things were not quite as good. We had 3 students over in Africa on a mission trip that are still attending South Carolina public schools through that. They just wake up at like 2 a.m. attend the class. Very fascinating.
So that's a good thing, but finding the motivated students to do that.
Well, they all have their different motivations. What I don't like is they don't allow homeschooling to supplement through that. Why not? There's no further, really no further cost to there is, but in regard to what you get out of it, it's so inexpensive that I won't do it. And it's more just, it's my territory and I don't want to get it. Yeah, that's it. That's right. That's right. Other questions? Y'all have things on your mind.
Kenny Bingham was complaining about this deal with ETV that apparently Nikki had changed her mind on. Well, why did y'all even make a deal with ETV?
Okay, I'm glad. It's a great question. I was fire and brimstone against it as well going in. And again, I don't want to become part of the system. You say you are, I'm getting out. ETV, the way the FCC operates is broadband system. I'm not saying I'm defending the system. I'm saying what it is. FCC delivers to each state broadband service or grants that license. ETV is that licensed entity. So everybody that has broadband in some form or fashion is connected through ETV. With that licensing there's a requirement for some educational purpose. So ETV meets that. What they do is then they subcontract out some of that broadband. What we did, if we had just said no more funding for ETV and shut it down, all that would disappear. We'd be in a world where the unintended consequences were pretty hard. So what we said was, okay, then we're going to treat it as a consumer entity, if you will, but it's going to have customers. And if the schools, believe me, I got a lot of emails from teachers, "I use ETV every day." And I said, "That's great. You'd be willing to pay for it." That's so integral. If it's so important to what you do in the classroom, then school district 1, school district 5, whatever, should pay for it and should share it. So what we did was we said anything that we're funding that's not connected to the government, we're cutting out. Then what we said was each entity then would subcontract and pay for their services. So if Clemson Extension used it, and that value was $250,000, it came out of Clemson's budget to ETV. Now we didn't say, Clemson, you have to do this, it's your choice. But what all of, both Kenny and others were smart enough, they got them all in the room and said, this is what you want. And yes, it is. And the thing was, if we didn't grant, I'm using Clemson as an example, we didn't give them an extra $250 just to pay back ETV. It came out of their expertise. So ETV became more of a hub for this. They still lost employees. They still lost some of the services they give because those were the what's called free services. But ETV is largely funded by its foundation. You've seen the drives. They put on one or two really good shows that they do each year, and you actually watch it and they bug you to death and donate, that kind of thing. That's a large driver, but there was a significant amount. The reason Kenny got very upset was because he was ready, like the rest of us, to shut it down. But then, Kenny, to his great credit, listened before he acts. Called ATV, said, tell me why I shouldn't do this, and they sat down with him and walked him through it. He immediately got the governor's office involved. They worked together on it. He very much felt like there was a miscommunication during the veto that when you're working in lockstep with someone and you have an agreement, Kenny takes that to the bank. Then there was a veto. He felt like that was just a betrayal, and that's what got him fired. So,
is there any number of dollars that have been saved because steps have been taken to
wow, that's a great question. I'm sure there are, and I'm not on Ways and Means. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here thinking that
More lack of spending.
you use the number $40 million. Clemson, if you look at that, all those states on the $4 million, so tuition, here we go.
Well, the Clemson extension
we're working
is
in our budget,
Yeah.
we're working in our budget.
And there are, if it's, they have that ability, they can do that. I can't control every tuition.
Getting in the back of it.
They are. It is true, and it's a fact.
So they have a cutback in their program.
In a general sense, I could probably agree. I don't want to say, yes, Clemson's bad, because I'd let them defend that if they could. I think tuition's out of control. We've got the federal government more involved in student loans. It's just getting worse. I have two young children, 10 and 13. I really don't want to think about their college tuition because of the federal government and states involved. That's just scary as it is. We have saved probably through lack of spending more than through actual expenditures. And I have one, I apologize. One last thing I'll tell you about the budget. We're not that different from the federal government in that we have burdened ourselves with so many entitlements type programs that is weighing us down. We went in with a cut mentality. November to me meant something. Apparently to a lot of people it really has not made as much of an impact. So we got a sheet in the budget that said, if you want to make a difference, you can strike in the top 5 programs eat up like 70% of the budget. In order to make a difference beyond that, you could strike 70 programs. Of course, they're all your favorite programs, but those 70, you only get maybe $50 million out of it. And out of a $5.2 billion budget, are you really going to make a difference? And you're going to upset so many constituencies, and some of these are very worthy programs. That's the problem. Medicaid is just killing us, and it is getting worse. So next year, when $200 million new dollars is needed to meet Medicaid, and our problem is that we're stuck. We made a choice a long time ago. We're going to be a participant. I don't think it was a bad choice, but the unintended consequences of good action. 3-to-1 match. That's great, but the federal government doesn't allow us the flexibility to say, well, we are going to cut back on certain services. Those are so limited here. Well, let's just cut back on the services. They can get rid of pharmacy. I can make an argument why you don't. They can, cut back on federal poverty level. We're already one of the lowest levels. We're at 50%, 75% now of FDL, and what services we provide. Those monies are just killing us. So just like the federal government, we're saddled with entitlements. But some of it's of our own choosing.
I want to make a point about this. One of the reasons I like to do this kind of stuff, one of the things I take away from this every time, is that these issues that they use as talking points, and I'm for and I'm against, are far more complex. The ETV, fair tax. It's easy to go on board with it. I learned a lot from the hearing the other day. You were very objective about it, and he brought up some good points. But that's the reason we're doing this. So many times I hear people say, I found something wrong with this politician. There's one thing I don't agree with. You really need to look at people over the overall. And also, when you get involved in these campaigns, and I know people who told me after the meeting for the fair tax thing the other day, and I thought John Steinberger was outstanding. There was things about it I didn't even know. And I've been involved in it from the beginning, and I felt embarrassed when I heard some of these topics came up, that I didn't do my homework. These issues are far more complex than talking. And that's the reason for this. And if people got ideas about things that they really want more information about, or they want somebody to come in a relaxed setting and record it, they can talk. But what he's talking about with the ETV, it's easy to say cut and do whatever. One man's valid program is another man's entitlement. So I appreciate you coming. I hope you come back and mix with us more, because you don't need an invitation. You don't need to we'll be here every week. And I thank Wilma for setting us up. Thank you.
Don't have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. My cell phone number, it's out there, but it's 530-2550. I answer it. If I don't answer it, I get back to you. My
I vouch for that.
Emails are a little different. I will get back, but I can't promise you it's going to be the same day. It's just overwhelming how. But please don't hesitate. And I apologize. I'm going to be in Anderson in 2.5 hours. So a little travel. Thank y'all so very much.
Thank you, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Be careful driving.